Take 7001. Here we go. Let's see if we can get this rocking and rolling. Da, da, da. Don't worry, I won't put any fun little sensors on myself at this point in time. Although in the meantime, I did have fun people drop in and ask specific questions for this podcast. So get some really fun data, some good questions to ask. You guys can all watch on the back end. Hi, Josh! So as soon as Erin gets on, I think we have it figured out. So we're going to cross our fingers and get that rocking and rolling. Yay! Erin, it's going to work!
Yay! Finally.
Jazz here.
The struggle. The struggle is real.
The struggle was very real, but I'm super excited to have you on now.
Thank you. I'm so glad we finally got this to work. And then I was like, turn your phone sideways and do this other thing. I'm like, okay, I'm getting there. Hold on.
Facebook has gotten technical lately. I love it.
I know. I love that you can go live now from your computer, but obviously not with this part quite yet. So good to know.
Yeah, I just didn't even think about that being syncing differently. That didn't even occur to me. So
I was Googling what was happening, and so now we're good.
Yay! Okay,
Yay.
Well, awesome. To all the viewers that are coming back on, because we're actually on now. This is Erin Porter, and she is the co-founder and owner of Beauty and the Beast Fitness. And she's going to kind of share her story with us today and tell kind of what got you into fitness and where did your nutrition and fitness journey start?
Yeah, I'm sharing it to my page so everyone can come watch us. So I got started back with fitness and nutrition. I played sports throughout all my life. So I played softball, I played volleyball growing up and all of that. So I was always active. And then once I hit college, I was kind of just doing I would go to doing some cardio stuff, and I would, kind of lift some weights and just kind of do some basic things. And then sometimes I wouldn't, played intramural sports, that sort of thing. And then from there, I had kind of gained some weight and kind of lost some weight, had some disordered eating and just different things like that were kind of always causing me to go up or down. And so I decided really to kind of get into it. Once I had graduated from undergrad and was getting ready to go to grad school, that's when I started with doing some fitness coaching online. I did network marketing, and then I got more certifications. I just kept getting more certifications. I taught group fitness. So that was 2012, 2013. So that was kind of my beginning piece of it was group fitness, added in personal training, added in nutrition certifications, and have tried probably every type of different way of eating, lots of different workouts. So I've tried it all, which is good because I can relate to everyone. And so in that process, I lost about 30 pounds. I also did a figure competition too in the middle, kind of all of that. And then my boyfriend, who is the other half of Beauty and the Beast, he's actually lost 100 pounds as well. So he was a college football player. He's an offensive lineman. He's 6'7", and so he's lost 100 pounds in his journey. So between the both of us, about 130, 140 pounds. So pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So so keto and intermittent fasting is kind of your thing. Has that been the most successful for the both of you?
Yeah, so I got into that earlier this year. It's hard for me to think that it's November, but I got into it early on this year. I had done the eating every 2 to 3 hours thing for many years, before that, and kind of always feeling I never felt hungry and never felt full, because I was always hungry because I'm I gotta eat this small meal every so often, and I was packing all of this food inside of my fitness container. I was eating on a schedule, my alarm would go off and I would need to eat, especially when I was doing competitions, and it was kind of moderate carbs, higher protein, lower fats. And whenever I added in more healthy fats, I always felt more full. I always felt more satiated. My hunger hormones kind of felt like they were turned off finally. And that's when I started kind of really diving into the keto diet. and getting into intermittent fasting. So I started with intermittent fasting, kind of high fat, low carb, and then let myself kind of just dip into ketosis. And that's where all the magic happened for me. That's really where I felt best in like my fat burning, really leaned out, had honestly just a lot of energy. Like the fat burning and all that was great, but the mental energy, the clarity, the pushing past brain fog, not feeling like I had to take naps all the time. Like that's where the magic really happened for me. I was like, this is great because I do HIIT workouts and I'm a trainer, so I'm on the go. So that was kind of where it all came together.
That's awesome. So, okay, so I feel like keto is such a buzzword right now. Everybody's doing keto. And especially around the gym, we hear people talking a lot about, oh yeah, I'm doing keto. But how do you know if you're in ketosis? And what does that even mean besides it's just a high fat diet?
Yeah, so good question. So I think a lot of people get it confused with like the Atkins diet a little bit too. So Atkins kind of got it a little bit messed up where they said eat unlimited amount of protein and eat unlimited amount of fats. But what happens is when you have too much protein in your body, obviously you're going to pee it out, but it can also process as the carbohydrate in your system. So keto is high fat, about 70 to 80, even a little bit more for some people. That's kind of usually the range that I like to stay at, is about 70% fats, 10% total carbs or less, and then 20% protein. So high fat, moderate protein, lower carb. Some people like to track with it, some people don't, but basically you're turning your body's energy source from insulin, glucose, to becoming a fat burner. So when your body gets into ketosis, you get ketone bodies in your liver. There's 3 of them. I'm not going to give you all the scientific terms and all of that, but basically what happens is your body turns into a natural fat burner. So if you think about like a 16-year-old when you're learning how to drive, like, and you're in your car, you're kind of stopping and you're going, you're stopping and you're going because you're trying to figure out the whole brakes and what makes the car go. That's kind of your body on like glucose or insulin, because you kind of have those ups and downs. Now, when you're like a 40-year-old on the gas pedal, you're kind of cruising along. You have like this long energy source. That's your body basically into ketosis. You have that nice energy because carbs do give you a burst of energy, but then you can crash kind of up and down from them. So this is kind of letting your body be into ketosis. You can, I know you asked like, how do you test for it? Some people like to do, there's 3 different ways that you can actually test for it. If you want to test for it, it's not necessarily. You can do the urine sticks where you pee on a stick and it tells you how much level of ketones are produced into your system. So that's one way of tracking it. You can do it through like a breathalyzer test. That's going to tell you, again, if you're into ketosis or not, or you can do like the pricking your finger blood test. The ones that I just described kind of go into price range. The peeing on the stick is going to be the least expensive. You can get it for like 10 bucks on Amazon for like 120 sticks. Then the breath one is a little bit more, and then the blood one's obviously the most expensive, and they go kind of in level of accuracy. So sometimes when people get really fat adapted, so you've been doing keto for a while, your body's running on the ketone system of a ketone, sorry, and then that's basically, sometimes you're not going to see that in the urine one because your body's become fat adapted. So sometimes people get concerned. So like, well, I'm not seeing myself into ketosis and I've been doing this for like a month, and that's just because your body's become fat adapted. So sometimes that can be the thing with the urine sticks.
So yeah. You stay in, so I know that there's a lot of the research I've looked at for nutrition. Intermittent fasting is one of the only things that across the board keeps showing up as very beneficial for weight loss maintenance, and different things like that. And a lot of what nutritionists are talking about is going into ketosis as you go into fasting to make sure that you can sustain through that and that you kind of get the best results from that. Do you know anything about that? Like, can you explain some of that stuff to us?
Yeah, so with intermittent fasting, if you're just doing intermittent fasting by itself, your body is going to produce some ketones more than likely in that fasting period. So intermittent fasting isn't necessarily like a type of like macro-based eating where you're changing anything. It's honestly just an eating pattern. So you, the most common one that people like to do is 16 hours of fasting, 8-hour window of eating. So you might eat from 11 to 7, and then the rest of the time you're not eating. So your body, since it doesn't have any insulin to kind of burn through, you can pretty much produce some ketones in that time for most people because there's obviously nothing in your system. Some people like to do a 20-hour fasting window and a a 4-hour eating window. Sometimes people will do 1 day on, 1 day off. The most common, like I said, it's kind of that 16-8, which is known as kind of like the lean gains method, because if you are fasting and you get a workout in that fasted period, you're going to have that surge of human growth hormone. And there's a lot of different studies that show how beneficial that is. It helps with kind of the fat burning, the lean muscle gain, and then also helps your body get into kind of that natural ketogenic state by producing some ketones, allowing yourself to be a fat burner and kind of burning through whatever's been in your system, because you don't have that insulin that you have to, or glycogen, glucose that you have to burn through first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
so
definitely.
2 different ways that you can do intermittent fasting. You can do it every day. You can do it every other day. You can do it 2 days. It's kind of up to you and what feels good for your body. And sometimes people will do like a 3-day fast. There's a lot of different things out there about like, oh, what can you have in your fasting period versus what you can't have. And everybody's going to give you a different kind of viewpoint on it. Mine is I like to do the bulletproof coffee in my fasting period. If you guys aren't familiar with the Bulletproof brand, it's not only just a brand of coffee and a type of blended coffee that you can have, like there's actual beans, there's a whole kind of nutrition plan about it. But since you're having those healthy fats, most people will say that you can still have some sort of like MCT or brain octane, which is like a triglyceride oil, maybe some grass-fed butter or coconut milk or whatever that might be, blend that and still stay into that fasted state. Now, some people out there are going to be like, well, technically you can't have water or anything. And I'm like, that's a little dramatic and not like doable for me. And I'm like, that's not good. So for me personally, yeah. So for me personally, I am a big fan of having the Bulletproof coffee. 1, because it gives me energy. 2, the brain octane or MCT oils can actually help produce some ketone bodies in themselves by having that in your system. And it keeps me full and it keeps me focused, and I like the energy. So I kind of like to do the whole like have your own expression of everything. Like don't follow all the rules or like this and that of people, what people say. Like do what works for you. And that feels good. The best thing too about intermittent fasting is like less meals to prep, less things to worry about. So I'm like, that's what I love it. It's like less to plan and to do.
Yeah, that's always nice. So with that, what's one of the biggest misconceptions as keto has kind of come to the forefront? What are some misconceptions that people have about keto?
Yeah, I like that you had asked me this question, because I was like kind of thinking, I was getting ready to do a podcast about this the other day, because there's a ton of them. And like I said, I'm all about like finding like your own expression of the ketogenic diet. And I think one thing on my list of many is that people think that you have to eat like all dairy for your fats, because you see a lot of like people out there eating like straight cheese and like their body, like basically it looks like their diet is like heavy creams and cheese and maybe some nuts. And so I'm like, okay, so I think personally you should have dairy in moderation, and it should be like good quality dairy. Like you want to get your foods from like proteins that have healthy fats in them, like your salmon, avocado oil, nut butters, coconut oil, MCT oils, ghee, grass-fed butter. I think you want to get it from good quality sources, so it's not just straight dairy. Even if you do or don't respond well to dairy, it's always good just to have it in like a smaller limitation, because it can have some inflammation that comes with it. Right. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that then it becomes like this whole carbs are bad sort of scenario, and carbs aren't bad. It's just good to have the right quality of carbs in there. So the other thing that kind of comes along with that, people are like, well, I can only have 10% of carbs throughout the day, so that means I shouldn't have vegetables and I shouldn't have any sort of fruits. And that's another thing where I'm like, no, like you want most of your carbohydrates to come from the vegetables. Like that's the point about allowing that. And then sometimes you will get like all caught up and then they don't have any veggies. I'm like, well, that's not good either. And sometimes too, the other thing is like, you're like, oh, well, I can't have any fruit. I'm like, you can have some lower glycemic berries, your blueberries, raspberries, things like that aren't as high in sugar. But it's just about kind of like taking out some of like the noise that's out there about it and figuring out a way that it works best for you. I mean, keto can be a tool in your toolbox, or it can be something that you do as a lifestyle. Like it can be something that you tap into, tap out of, and still get the benefits. You can do high fat, low carb. You can dip into ketosis when you want. You can stay into ketosis the entire time. But I think sometimes we get into this thing where it's like, oh, well, I can't have vegetables because vegetables have carbs, therefore they're bad. And it's like, no, they're not bad. Vegetables are obviously good. And then like, I think the other thing too that I've gotten a lot of is like that you're not supposed to be snacking on keto. And I'm like, I like to have a snack. I just don't snack every like 1 to 2 hours like I used to.
Okay.
I have like like my first meal around 11 because I do intermittent fasting and keto. Around 11 o'clock, I'll have my first big meal. I'll probably have a snack in the afternoon, and then I'll have dinner. That's just how it works for me. Some people like to do 2 big meals and that's it. But that's kind of that. And then the other thing too, I think, is that people think you have to stay under 20 grams of carbs. Like that became some magic number. So it honestly ranges from person to person. Some people can stay under 50 grams of total carbohydrates. Some people can stay under 20. And on that note too, another misconception, I just got a list of them. Like, let me tell you all the things that I think that people like preach out about, is that you don't have to track it at all. Like you can really just start to up your fats, lower your carbohydrates, moderate your protein, and get into the state of ketosis without like feeling like you need to be glued to MyFitnessPal. Yes, I think it's good at first to track for a few days so you can honestly just see like where you've been and what it's transitioning like, but it's not, you don't have to do that long term, especially if that doesn't work for you. Unless you're the person that loves to track and needs to do that, great. But if you're not, you can still be more of like an intuitive based eater and be very successful with keto, which I think is really great. So I think that's a few of the ones that were kind of coming to mind. Like let me on my little soapbox
because I think I'm like a keto newbie. I mean, I know nothing about it, so I think that's some of the things that I really did think like, and I didn't understand that that you could get some of your fats from also what we would call protein, like you were talking about salmon and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. Do you have certain types of clients that respond best to the keto and intermittent fasting? Like, are there certain body types or certain types of lifestyles that people live that they really enjoy keto more?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of similar for both. So a lot of times when people have been really weight loss resistant for a long period of time, I love to put people into ketosis that way because it's so new and it's turning their body into being a fat burner. People that have like a lack of energy or they've been feeling maybe even some adrenal fatigue, I recommend just like the keto for them, not so much the intermittent fasting, because when you're healing your adrenal, sometimes you still need to eat every couple of hours depending upon where you're at in that. Some people that maybe aren't interested in the keto side, but they want to do the intermittent fasting, that's great for people that are on the go, or they don't want to pack and prep a million different things. Maybe they don't like to cook. Maybe they never have been a breakfast eater. So I'm like, okay, great. Let's have a bulletproof coffee maybe for you in the morning. Get you a high fat smoothie in for your first meal after that. So it kind of just depends on the person. I think it's great for people that are doing HIIT styled workouts as well, or like to work out in the morning and get that fasted state, get some of those benefits from the human growth hormone. But yeah, I don't think that there's necessarily a bad person. I would just say, of course, if you have any medical concerns, or if you're like type 1 diabetic, there becomes a point where when you're a type 1 diabetic, you can also have something that's called ketoacidosis. So that's another, just of course, always check with your doctor. It can be really beneficial also though for people that are on type 1 or type 2 diabetes, depending upon how you do it and how your body is. So not really anyone that it's necessarily bad for, of course, unless you have any medical reasons, but it can be a really good lifestyle for people that don't want to like prep a million different meals. They've been tired of doing that for a long period of time. They need to switch it up. And like I said, it can be a tool in your toolbox, or it can be something that you do more on a regular basis.
Yeah, I love that you can splice it in if you want, or you can do it all the time. I think that type of lifestyle works for a lot of people. So you're kind of talking about the coffee. What other types of supplements do you think are helpful for people whenever they're kind of changing their nutritional lifestyle?
Yeah, so when you are doing keto, a lot of times you're going to hear people talk about the keto flu, which can happen as your body just, lowers itself of carbs and helps get into that fat burning state, which people tend to kind of freak out about a little bit. And I'm like, it's all right. I'm like, you might feel a little kind of flu-like symptoms. Some people feel them, some people don't. So that's why I like to make sure that people are supplemented properly with just the basic things for the most part. I don't like to put like 19 different things into people's bodies. That's like a whole new regimen. I think it's really good to be supplementing with magnesium. Electrolytes are also really, really important on the keto diet as well, just because you're depleting a lot of those water and fat stores, and your body needs those electrolytes. BCAs, can kind of fall in the same line of that as well. So magnesium, especially if you're feeling crampy at all, a lot of women are naturally deficient in magnesium. So I think that's a great one to have. Magnesium, electrolytes, and then I'm also a big fan of the exogenous ketones as well. Exogenous ketones are beta hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone body that you produce naturally into your liver when it's one of three that you produce in your body, in your liver, when you're into ketosis. Now, exogenous ketones are kind of like a powder that you can drink that are going to put you into ketosis within an hour because it's made up of that. Some people are like, oh, well, can't you get that naturally? You can, but it's also a good, again, tool in your toolbox to have if you don't want to follow a strict ketogenic diet, but you want to have the benefits of it, or if you just want to continue to really get yourself into ketosis. There's a phenomenal researcher, doctor that created it. Ketones, exogenous ketones were actually created and patented by NASA and some different other big organizations as well, to help these people that were doing like deep sea diving and all these other cool things to get their bodies into this state, because you get that ketogenic state so quick, and it can help you with actually fasting and all of that. So Dr. Dom D'Agostino is a really, really awesome researcher who does the ketogenic diet, but he also supplements with exogenous ketones. I do both as well because I like the benefits of having both, and it gives me just a little bit of flexibility if I do, knock myself out of it, to kind of help get me back in and to help preventing from the keto flu.
Okay, so that kind of brings up one of the questions that came from a live audience member. So he had a question about whether that you see a difference between somebody that synthetically gets into ketosis or someone that naturally gets into the ketosis state. If there was a difference, or one's better than the other.
If you can get most of like your stuff from food and nutrition, I think that that's really important. But you're going to get a lot of those same benefits. I was reading an article about it yesterday where people are producing the same level of ketones. I wouldn't ever take exogenous ketones and be doing like a super high carb diet. I would make sure you're still kind of in that lower-ish carbs, moderate protein. Because you're still going to be able to produce those ketone bodies. So that's why a lot of people like it if they don't want to be strict with keto, but they want to get the benefits of it. But of course, get most of it from your food, from the fasting that you can go into. But it's another really great resource to help you get into ketosis, feel those benefits if you don't want to be super all keto all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going into the holidays. Things are going to get nasty with lots of cookies, and I don't think those are the fats that you're talking about being high in. So what's a piece of nutritional advice that you think would be great for people? Because I know everyone does it, but the New Year's turnover, everybody gets healthy. What's a way people can just stay through the holidays and feel good and healthy? What's kind of your advice for your clients?
Yeah, so a couple of things, kind of from the mindset side, I think we have to kind of ditch that all or nothing mindset that we need to be 100% throughout the holidays, or, well, I can't commit to being 100% because I have this holiday party and that holiday party and this and that. And I'm like, okay, let's just do our best that we can and just allow ourselves to naturally go through it instead of separating it as this other time of the year that's not possible to be healthy with. And so when I'm working with a client and they're like, okay, well, I have 3 parties this week, what am I supposed to do? The first thing I like to tell people is be choosy about your treats. There might be some parties that you're okay, it's my great grandma's favorite homemade recipe, I'm going to have that, but I'm not going to have the box cookie that is from the grocery store. Right. You can have it's good to kind of be choosy about that. I like people to kind of go into it with a plan as well. So knowing what your options might be and choosing whatever is best for you. You might have ones where you decide to be a little bit more flexible, and you might have ones where you decide to be a little bit more in tune with it. If you have 6 parties, then you got to kind of figure out what you're going to do. Otherwise you're going to have kind of those binging up and down. But if you do maybe go a little too crazy with the cookies or the sweets or just the calories, whatever, the next meal is the next meal. That's your new opportunity to get right back into everything instead of using it as a 3-week long binge period. So what I recommend for people, I'm get lots of water, do some intermittent fasting. That's really good. I recommend intermittent fasting a lot on the weekends because that's when we tend to just automatically go over a little bit. So it allows you just to kind of burn through that, and then get a workout in, get a good HIIT workout in. Try to stay into ketosis when you can throughout the week. And if you get out of it, add in your ketones, add in your electrolytes, and just start again. Like, it's not like you're starting over. It's just swinging right back into everything and making the next meal 1% better than you were the last time. It's just always that cycle and that add-on.
I like that. So 1, be a food snob. Don't eat the cookies from the store.
Exactly. Eat the good cookie.
Forgive yourself. And 3, stay consistent. So just try to always getting back to what you know, because you know you feel good. So why do people want to feel miserable during the holidays, like dragging themselves out of bed every day and feeling bad? This is a time to feel better than ever. Are you running any like holiday programs, anything like that you're starting right now?
Yeah, so I have like a fitness and nutrition membership site. It's kind of keto and HIIT workout based. That's something that I have that goes on all the time. So that's that. And then I do have a podcast as well where I kind of like to talk about this type of stuff. And you can listen to my last one with Nicole that was on here already. So really good stuff on there. There's been lots of good reviews for that one. And then, yeah, my membership site's a big way that I kind of like to work with people in that sense. I have a free Facebook group. It's I'll give you the link and everything so you guys can search it. I'll post it in the comments, but that's where I kind of talk about keto, intermittent fasting, workouts, mindset, all of that. And then I run like big 6-week programs a few times throughout the year. So I won't run another one till January. So this is just kind of my way to keep everyone motivated and on track as we go into everything throughout the holidays.
Awesome. Well, lots of listeners, I feel like they've made some comments and feel like they got some really good information. There's a couple still on. I don't know if there's any questions, but I think the last thing while we see if anybody has any questions is just if you could give somebody one piece of advice that would kind of change their life in the health realm, what would you give them?
Changing their life. Oh, that's a deep question.
I know.
Honestly, I think just starting and not waiting. Like, everything in life is a choice. Everything in life is a decision. If you feel like you have to wait until a certain point to start, like, you're just going to keep prolonging that. Like, you're just going to say, I'm going to wait till after the holidays. And then when the holidays come, you're like, I'm just going to wait till we get back into the swing of getting the kids back into school. And then you all just become this waiting game because you think that it has to be perfect and it has to be everything or not at all. When really you can have the balance. You can have, the workouts that, are under an hour, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, as long as it's something. You just have to be okay with starting and knowing that, like, it doesn't have to be this whole perfect process that you can learn. You can get 1% better every single day. Roll with it, figure out what works for your body, and just keep adjusting rather than feeling that it needs to be, everything has to be lied out, everything has to be this way, or otherwise I failed. So setting those realistic goals for yourself, I think, can be the biggest change rather than focusing on what can I eat, what can I not eat, and what do I have to do, what do I not have to do.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. In the comments,
thank you.
Posted all of her information so that you guys can get in contact with her. Make sure that you listen to her podcast because I got to talk on that one. Yay. And super fun. Thank you for all the viewers that dealt with our technical difficulties, and super excited to share all this info. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you. Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.